Good evening, November Foxtrot. Welcome.
Evenings.
Just a general alert that I think everyone on this podcast is possibly a little bit ill tonight. Lance hasn't been able to make it because he's got COVID.
He hasn't got COVID.
We're all struggling. I'm a bit deaf in this ear, which is making this an interesting episode to produce so far. So bear with us. If the audio is a little bit wafty, please let us know, and I'll see what I can do.
It's going to be
we're obviously
muting out to cough. That's not bad.
We're obviously joined again by Andy. He's managed to escape his deathbed and rejoin us on the show. So welcome back.
Lots of drugs. It should get me through it.
How are you doing?
Yeah, all right. Ribs are healing nicely. Still not allowed to drive for another 2 weeks, which is really inconvenient. Not allowed in a vehicle at all.
What, even as a passenger?
Yeah, not even as a passenger. Unless it's a medical emergency, which is fun. Something to do because I had a fracture of my spine.
Right, yeah.
And they're still a little bit worried about that. So.
Well, I was going to take the piss until you said you fractured your spine. Now I won't. Thanks for that.
That's all right. You can still take the piss.
I will, but it will be
my spine's. Yeah, my
At least you've got a spine. You know.
Yeah.
He's not spineless. We've worked that one out. We're obviously joined tonight by Kevin and James from Defiant. So welcome to you, gents. It's always a pleasure to have you on. How are you both doing?
Yeah, very well, thank you. James is sick. I'm on medicine.
Nice. And there's a. Are you double parked, Kev?
Yeah.
Double parked.
Oh man, you have to fix that one quick.
Could be half the
We're obviously also.
It's not as much as double parked as he's overpaid the parking booth, you know, so that he can stay in the car park longer.
As long as possible, yeah.
We're also joined tonight by a number of people on our live chats. We've got Fresh Meat, Jungle's Airsoft Blog, Daz, Adventures of Zulu, Les, Richard McRae, James C, Rage, James McNary. Happy, well done, James.
Evening all.
I say well done. Congratulations on James is having a baby. I don't know why I said well done. That was a weird thing to say. Congratulations is more appropriate. So congratulations to you, Harry Badger. We've also got Daniel Brewer, Matthew McCarthy, Ryan. Hello, Ryan. Welcome. So yeah, we're going to be talking tonight about kind of bridging the gap between MilSim and Skirmishing. We're also going to be chatting about the latest Defiant event, Operation Irene, which whilst unfortunately none of us could be there very awkwardly, but it was a absolutely cracking event from the feedback that we've heard so far. So we're going to be talking a little bit about that. And then we're also going to be talking about Defiant's upcoming event, Raid, which is going to be, I think, a slightly different style from stuff that you've done before.
Yeah. Possibly. Yeah.
Possibly.
You have to listen to the episode.
More of an evolution, I would say. More of an evolution.
Right, okay.
I wouldn't.
Cool.
I wouldn't necessarily say that. I'd say it's a bonus feature.
Bonus feature.
Like that.
Ooh.
Yeah. Well, let's kick it off with some news.
I pick my gun and I go pew 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 pew.
News.
Present some news or some interesting purchases. I know James has already got something lined up. He was very keen. I know Kevin was slightly pipped to the post in terms of getting their latest thing out. So you guys go on. You guys go first. You can talk about your new shiny things.
It all depends on what your interest lays with. Because I'm a complete nerd. Not that I don't love my kit, but let Kevin go first.
So LBT were doing a little promo the other week there on their Multicam Black. So I had to purchase a little 14-litre sort of day sack with a little work job in London today. It's very, very nice. So I'm very comfy with that. And also went for their little slick plate carrier. Sticking a Defiant patch on for this evening, of course. But yeah, sort of with me sappy plates inside. So yeah, nice little slick plate carrier. Just for you kind of wear that and put your sort of chest rig over the top. So yeah, just something a little bit different, a little bit low profile. Yeah, very happy with that.
as Lance isn't here, I feel the need to do the duty for him and ask how much your plates weigh, because that seems to be the new thing that he keeps doing.
My plates are genuine ESAPI plates. I don't know what weight they are.
What, you mean they're not super metal? Oh dear.
Yeah. Proper ones. Proper plates, as always.
Does it not say on the label on the back what the weight is?
I don't think they really care as long as it stops stuff.
Yeah. Stops big bullets, it says. Yeah.
Will stop 0.43 gram BB.
Yeah.
The ESAPI plate small weighs 2.7 kilos.
There's not a lot medium, so small.
Yeah.
No, well, I don't know the difference between the small and the large. I wasn't able to find that quick enough. But here we go. Actually, the medium is 3.2 kilos and the large is 3.5 kilos a plate.
Fair enough.
So there you go.
Now you know.
Ever the informative podcast that we are.
Yeah.
We can Google. Yes.
We can multitask.
Yeah, no.
You can't do that.
I wasn't listening to you, Kevin. I was just, as soon as you said what the weight was, I was like, right, straight on Google. Yeah. Come on in, James. What exciting thing have you got?
Well, I don't think it's exciting for some people. It's certainly exciting for me because I'm a sad nerd.
I'd like to point out last week I talked about string, so it's going to be exciting to someone out there.
Yeah, this is true. So I've got my yogurt cup, complete with warning label. So this is the yogurt cup antenna by Heads Down Comms Up, purchased through 54 Comms. He very nicely sent me a nice armoured cable as well, and it's on a gooseneck. So so effectively this is your antenna system. The gooseneck you can place through your molly, cable tie on. You can use different sorts of antenna mounts, but whatever you choose, could be anything from cable ties or shot cord, what have you. And then there you go. Then you have the relocation cable to your radio system. I haven't had a chance to play with it yet or figure out what the propagation is like. And I'm using big words. I don't even know how to describe it. What propagation is? It's kind of like the pattern of an antenna. Lots of people, when you talk about antennas, will start saying, "Oh, what's the range?" Well, that's kind of a bit of a, without being big-headed, it's a bit of a silly question because it's all dependent on the setup of your radio itself. What frequency you're running, what the atmospherics are like, what's in between you and the receiver. But yeah, I'm going to do some tests with it and figure out. This is the VHF UHF version. So I'm going to have a play on different frequencies and see what works.
I'm buying you a Costa sticker.
Sorry?
I'm buying you a Costa sticker and sticking it on upside down.
It's not a bad.
Yeah. It's a Costa coffee, isn't it? One of the.
Yeah.
Get one of those "My name is James" stickers.
Yeah.
Well, it's a
presumably.
Aperture.
So presumably this is a vehicle-mounted system, or is this?
So this is a vest-mounted one. Like I say, you put the gooseneck. I can't see it now; it's gone on my blind side. You put the gooseneck through your molly, and that allows you to sort of bend it into the angle. If you don't have clear comms, I don't know if you've ever played with this. If you don't necessarily have clear comms, putting a bit of the angle on your antenna can sometimes make all the difference, and that's all about antenna propagation. But he is going to be bringing out a vehicle kit as an upgrade, so I will be I'll be looking into that when 5.4 brings that out. If you're interested in any radio equipment, and that can be anything from the real high-end stuff to fish mics, cables, whatever it is, check out 5.4 Communications.
100%.
Even better with Defiant Patreon. If you're on our groups or you follow our chats and stuff like that, you get a discount code for us. So you can get some money off. I don't even get a kickback. I really should, but yeah. No, he does me enough favours.
Nice.
No, it's good. Highly recommend.
So
I used him for mine.
I've And no, I can't turn James up. I've tried turning James up volume-wise. I've had some messages come in. If I try turning James up, for some reason, it cuts James out completely. So we can either have James at this level.
That's a bonus.
We can either have James at this level or not at all. So apologies.
Not at all.
Yeah, I've actually got some actual news this week, which is a real surprise. Two companies have sent us links to their events, and just before I advertise these, I want to just make a bit of a PSA on behalf of myself and Andy that please don't just all start sending us event stuff, because this is obviously kind of a bit of a MilSim-esque channel. It's what it's meant to be. I'm going to talk about these two, but I also don't want to open the gates for just hundreds of people sending me loads of messages and then getting upset that I'm not advertising their events. So I'll do these two, but just please bear that in mind in the future. But we discussed this one briefly on the event the podcast last week. This is Warhound's first event, Nightfall. It's on the 28th, 29th of October. It's a pretty cool image. They've got some sponsors in. They've got EG Grenade, they've got Viper Tactical and BZ Tactical. The venue's at Gunman Battle Lakes, and they were quite keen to offer us up a discount code as well. So if you're interested in attending, go and check out their website, which is annoyingly hidden by... There you go. It's on warhoundtactical.com/nightfall. I believe the discount code was NoFo10. I'll double check that for the end of the show. But if you're interested, then go and check that out. Another event that came up as well is Rush. So Rush joined us on the chat a little while ago. They have an event, Hell on Earth. This event is it's a Halloween-based event. Give me 2 seconds, just trying to find their website. Rush's Rampage RRA3 Hell on Earth on the 21st of October. It's going to be based at the Ambush Activity Centre. So you can check out the website. If you want some details, head on over to their Instagram, which I don't have in front of me. I'm really sorry. I'm doing a bang up. This is why we don't advertise stuff, because I'm just terrible at it. Rush. So if you're trying to find them on Instagram, just RUSH. And hopefully you can find some details. Oh, sorry, operator_rush. Operator_rush. Go and check them out. And that's, I'm not going to do any more advertising because I'm doing such a bang up job of it.
It's good to be back.
Yeah. One purchase I wanted to briefly talk about this week is a little bit of actual researchy science that I've been doing. So I purchased a portable bellows. So these are, there's a little image there as to what you do with it. It basically extends out. It's a hollow tube that allows you to blow through one end. It compresses the air slightly because the one end is narrower than the other. And it allows you to put air basically straight on the thing that you're trying to ignite. So if you've got a fire that's a little bit diminishing, you need to get a bit of extra oxygen to it. This was £4.60 for two of these. I thought they looked a little bit fancy. They've got a slightly wider mouthpiece and a narrower end piece. But to be brutally honest with you, I'm not that impressed with it. It's a lot of extra weight for no reason. It's longer than I probably needed. So if you're interested in buying any, I would recommend this version of that. So these are basically similar price, but they don't have all the fanciness of the others. So it's a little bit of feedback and research.
Is it a 6mm hole?
I will no.
Does it have an
No, it's not.
adjustable
Yeah, does it have, yeah, that's your tongue.
I potentially could get the BB down the other end of it. I'll have a little play around with that later on. 'Cause that might be quite entertaining.
Surely,
outside the box.
if you've lit a fire, right, or a bad fire, by the time you've realised you need your little blowpipe, your fire's gone out.
No, so
it's dead. It's gone.
No, it's these are pretty good. So I mean, if you're trying to build a fire for any reason like that, these are a good opportunity to add that additional oxygen. I mean, I've used them for domestic purposes as well. When you've got like a fire that you're trying to get going in a chimney breast, anything like that, it's quite useful to be able to put air where you want it very precisely. without having to necessarily. Some people aren't wanting to get too close to the fire, or sometimes you're not able to because of the heat or whatever reason. But the other thing that these work well with.
Sorry, if you can't get close to the fire because of the heat, why are you applying extra air? Just saying. Just saying.
Because sometimes you want to get it hotter.
Because you can't.
Yeah.
So last
week
week you talked about string, and now you're talking about a useless straw.
It's not a useless straw. One thing I would recommend with these is if you ever, the little flexi pumps, little flex tail pumps. So the tiny little pump units. They've just come out with a new one, which is like the length of your finger. You can combine these with those, so you can get a very precise jet of air, and you can get some quite large flames and stuff with those as well. They're quite good fun. So there you go. You all look underwhelmed, severely underwhelmed.
Yeah.
Hey, it's great to be back.
Harry Badger says, don't forget the Gunman Tuddenham Halloween special on the 28th of October. Aliens versus Gunman. It's consumed my life for the last 9 months. So if you're interested, go and see what Harry's been up to. I know he's been making lots of very, very interesting products.
Yeah.
As well. Right. Shall we talk about your latest event? Obviously, we've had Operation Irene.
Oh, I haven't bought anything then.
Oh, sorry, Andy. Have you? I just got used to you not being here.
Andy.
Fuck's sake. I'll just go. Sodger. Bye.
Andy's got painkillers.
Yeah, I've got lots got morphine, codeine. Yeah. I've bought loads because I've been sat on my ass. So I bought two new Bergens, a webbing set, a new belt setup, which is just outside the screen, an MWS, a new pistol, a new hoodie, Arctus trousers, a new headset, a gas mask bag with no gas mask because it was only 30 quid. What else have I bought?
Is that the field pack one, like the multicam?
Yeah. I think that's it. Oh, new shoes that they still haven't arrived. A front rail for me, MWS. Oh yeah, I bought loads. I shouldn't be unemployed, and I shouldn't be left on my own with a phone and a credit card.
I'm assuming you've had your insurance payout then.
No. I've just been spending money.
Speculative.
Yeah. I've preempted it. That's what it is.
So what?
Considerably.
What Arctis trousers did you get, and what pattern?
I got multicam. They're only here. Hang on, 2 seconds. I'm on my wheelchair.
Oh, Andy gets questioned about the trousers, but Mike doesn't get any questions about his collapsible straw.
Mike, if we're ever out in the woods together and we're in dire need of a blowjob, we know exactly where to go to. But until then, you can keep your little tool in your pocket, okay?
Well, I got 2 of them. They came in a packet, so I'll give you the other one. There you go.
Really don't.
Sorry, Andy. I was just filling while you were getting your trousers.
So I've bought the Ranger CC
the C222.
Yeah,
they're good.
Yeah, very nice. They're really comfy. I like the knee pads because they come with the new set. Come with already pre-camoed knee pads.
Yeah.
Which are actually quite nice.
They're designed to take the cry ones. You can put your cry ones straight into them.
Yeah.
Perfectly. And all the Velcro's lined up. Yeah, they're good.
Yeah. In all
you
fairness,
guys might know, what are the button bits for?
Oh, interestingly, that's actually for you can fit in the Arc'teryx kneecaps into them.
Okay.
If you were to wear the Arc'teryx knee pads themselves, and then you run the straps around the back for extra support.
Around the legs, yeah.
Ah, I like that. Did not know this. Learnings. I might have to spend some more money after the show.
So just get the cry knee pads. To be honest with you, the knee pads that Arctis do themselves, they say everything's made in the UK. No, those knee pads that they sell from their website are no better quality than your cheap Chinese clone stuff.
No, really.
In all honesty, yeah.
And very shiny, very shiny.
Yeah, they are very reflective. So yeah, go and get the Cry ones. To be honest with you, there are so many brands out there that are decent quality. I wouldn't normally say go and buy Cry, but there is a distinct difference between Cry knee pads and other knee pads.
Yeah, there is.
And they're not silly money.
No.
Unless you try and get the Gen 2 old ones, and then they've gone up in price.
That's because they look cool.
Because they don't make them. Yeah, it's because they don't make them. Mate. Yeah, simple as.
But yeah, that's all my purchases is.
Nice.
Yeah. And now I've got more things to buy, so there'll be more things on order next week. So don't forget me.
I actually had some other news as well that I forgot to mention. We have found, I say found, it sort of popped up, No Man's Land Airsoft. We've been talking a little while ago about iPro and whether there should be mandatory text on sites for iPro. So No Man's Land Airsoft have basically started doing random checks, spot checks on eye protection that they deemed that they could be possibly unsafe. So in the testing last weekend, from what we deemed, I'm reading from the article that said, from the testing last weekend, from what we deemed as unsafe iPro, 2 pairs of eye protection failed to withstand a BB from up close, and in awareness to show what could potentially could have happened, the players were then asked to sort out suitable iPro before continuing their game day. So I think that's a win in my mind for events. Ultimately.
So I mean, I'm actually going to play devil's advocate here, right? And I do understand it from a skirmish site, making sure that people have decent iPro. But if you're at a MilSim event, hopefully you've done enough time skirmishing to learn. And as this is a MilSim podcast, at least through Defiant events, our view is your PPE is your responsibility, and if it fails, that is your fault. I'm not going to go around and check everybody's iPro. And I mean, for insurance reasons, we have to recommend full face. Wearing full face for 24 hours must be fun. Severely dehydrated by the end of it. But yeah, I certainly wouldn't be. Have you seen the amount of cigarettes I get through on a 24-hour event?
You'd have to have a little hole in the middle, wouldn't you?
Oh, it would just be melted. Yeah.
Oh, you know what you need? You need one of these. You put a cigarette on the end of it.
Yeah, I could get that colour to fill, couldn't I? Yeah.
And I mean, I'm just going to preempt because I know Rage is probably already busy typing to say, that we don't need to teach people to breathe when they arrive at an airsoft site. But, but I mean, it's interesting because, we obviously have chrono events, because you could make the same argument that you need to make sure your gun is the right speed and everything in FPS before you get to an event.
Do you know what? There are events that we do not chrono because it is the player's responsibility. Now, that's not all events, and urban events we definitely chrono, but there are events where we have more trusted players or more experienced players, and we don't run a chrono because we have that level of trust and we know that they're competent. So yeah, big boy rules for big boy games.
Exactly, and just don't buy iPro off Amazon and just call it a day. Or Wish. If you see a skull mask,
Temu's the latest one, isn't it?
if you see a skull mask that looks really cool and it says Airsoft safe, then it's not. I promise you.
And don't wear that to a MilSim anyway, please.
Unless you're playing a certain role.
I don't want to be rocking up and then finding that I'm playing Task Force against Iron Man. That'd be ridiculous.
That'd be cool as fuck, though. Especially if you had one of the automated ones, though.
Right. Just to clarify before we move on, has anyone got any more purchases or news?
No.
Good.
Not yet.
We're all good.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. Right. Let's chat about Operation Irene. So this is Defiant's latest event. This was a couple of weeks ago now. Was it last weekend or the weekend before?
No, it was a couple of weeks ago now, yeah.
Yes.
Right. So this was an event based on... I mean, do you know what? I'll let you guys explain it rather than me try to fill in the gaps, per se.
I'm going to let Kevin do it. No, I'm going to.
Right. So what we tried to do for this was try to do justice to the real story, the real event, the real sequence of events, but try and put it into that sort of 24-hour period. We only sold tickets to Rangers and Delta, and we ran our role players doing the Op4 role for the weekend. James controlled or ran the Op4 guys, and I was running Rangers and Delta. Obviously, we didn't believe it would work for our kind of standard force on force because everyone wanted to get the gun on and trigger on, and it would have been detrimental to the experience of the Rangers and Delta guys for the weekend. So the picture you've got there, it was literally Sunday morning. It took us like a long time to like secure the crash zone, and I just turned over my shoulder and I saw this image that looks like the film shot as well. And I just took the picture. Literally, it's the only picture I took the entire weekend. I took 2 or 3 of them, which just sort of summed up the idea of like guys who came to the event, who made the effort. There was lots of guys who, the multicam, but they put the effort in for their conduct, their behaviour, the way they went about the game. That was actually superb. But the feedback we've had is a lot of people would want us to do this event on a more regular basis. That sort of theme story type event. A lot of guys have got the kit and want to get the opportunity to wear it. So, we're listening to our customers and we're thinking, moving forward, do we do this once every, couple of years perhaps or something, as a sort of regular event. Obviously, we did it at Driffield, at HQ, but depending on what sites become available, we may look to do it at different sites or something in the future moving forward. So, yeah, it was a sort of historic event, which is a bit of a departure from our normal events, a bit of a departure from Machiavellian events, so something different for us. With some complete Black Hawk Down movie fan heroes who were given all the one-liners and doing all the movie quotes, and it was really, really fun to do. And other guys come along for the first, like, inverted commas, MilSim, and they learn about MilSim, they learn about the way things run. And I reckon a lot of people probably went home and just watched the film afterwards. They're like, yeah, he did say that. Like, so why did Kevin walk around the vehicles and say this at a certain point? It actually linked into all the film. So yeah, it was good fun to do. Every time we do an event, James and I come back from it, we think it was like the world's worst event ever. But we're so invested, we're so tired at the end of it. But yeah, player feedback was really, really positive, and the general vibe is to actually run this event on a more regular basis, like I would say every couple of years. Yeah, it was good event, and that picture just sums up the effort people put into for the weekend.
Yeah, it looks a cracking photo, to be honest.
I mean, just reading the chat at the moment, there's a lot of love for Irene. Stip says Irene was unreal. Padraig, Irene was fun. Apparently, Op4 James was cool.
Yeah, apparently, I have I already know I have a split personality, but apparently Task Force James is rather strict, and Op4 James doesn't give a shit. So
and like spanking. I saw the images. You had too much of a grin at that situation for you not to have a split personality.
He was enjoying that too much.
He was, wasn't he?
I wasn't enjoying it nearly as much as Dan Guest.
Dan Guest was enjoying it more than anyone else.
Yeah.
Slick Stick Riding says Irene was the best event ever. Polo.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So yeah, I mean, there's absolutely. I mean, you always see these events online, and then it's sort of various chat groups and stuff like that, and then people come back from after the event, and you can tell it's been a good event when people are just like, "Oh man, this was amazing!" Like throwing photos up and anecdotes and stuff like that, and it just clearly this was one of those events. So I am gutted that I couldn't be there.
Unfortunately, we were a little let down because we were meant to have a photographer on site, and that would have been immense to have had a load of photographs come out the back of this for our players. It didn't happen, but I guess for that reason we'll have to do it again, Kevin?
Oh well, oh dear, what a pity. Never mind.
James Mean says Op4 James was a twat. Apparently.
Well,
I must profess, I think there is something about being up for.
Every version of James is a twat. I think it's very, very difficult to pin that one on Op for James. But no, to be in all fairness, I did enjoy running Op for that weekend. It was really good. The guys that were there, guys and girls that were there, were all very trusted players. All came, either vouched for or handpicked by us, and they did exactly as they were asked to. There was a point where I rolled in and said, "Look, guys, I need this done," and they literally only just got their food on. So they were like, "Well, when?" And I was like, "Well, 5 minutes." And they were like, "Well, my food's too hot to eat now, so I guess I'm going to have it cold." And they went out.
Yeah, that's what you want.
That kind of dedication to it was really good. I mean, don't get me wrong, Task Force James did come about when he realised that an entire room of Op4 were asleep. So I went in there with a broom and woke them up.
Not a pyro. You went to the broom option.
No, not pyro, because we had a pyro ban and it was still sort of like 3:34 in the morning. So
yeah.
Nighttime pyro, please.
Yeah.
Quick sweep to the face, I imagine, would wake someone up fairly sharpish.
Oh no, I used the other end.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
That's why everyone left with a grin.
So, I mean, obviously sort of segueing into the topic of tonight's show a little bit. So you said you had a lot of players that had never done any MilSim and that before. How did you find that they sort of adapted to it?
Yeah, so obviously on Task Force, you had the die-hard, the MilSim team guys who do some of our Machiavelli events, which are perhaps our kind of hardest, most extreme events that we do. Some of the guys who have done Airsoft events for 20 years and just love the kit and the look of it. And there was a couple of guys who turned up, and it was their sort of first 24-hour event. They had DPM, they had a Viper chest rig. They had the sleeping bag. They had the basics, but they're put in together. And I chatted to them on Sunday, and I think one of the things we tried to do is touch base. And my sort of debrief speech at the end was we invite feedback, what went well, what didn't go well. Say from our point of view, it's we want those guys to come back again. If we've done something that didn't meet their needs or they weren't happy with, we openly invite them to tell us about it. We are the only company, I think, actually around that actually does a feedback form at the end of the event. And I think people who have done our events over the years know that we act on that feedback and they can see the evolution and changes that we put into place. So, yeah, I say from the most experienced guys to the guys for the first time, we put up a kit list, they follow that. They had sleeping bags, they had cold gear, they had wet gear, they had foods, we had hard shelter over the roofs for Task Force and Rangers and Delta. So they were looked after that way. They were in their sections. There's lots of, there's DS roundabout, there's experienced players roundabout. So I would hope everyone felt as if they were sort of looked after and we were close enough. If they had a question, they could ask us and get an answer to that question. So a little bit of duty of care, to be honest,
I mean, I don't, I'm not going to name names here, but I think there were some definite lessons learned from that event by some of the people that were newer to MilSim. We had a couple of people that turned up in either DPM or Multicam Tropic, despite the fact that the uniform rules said basically desert patterns. So anything from Multicam to, and that might change in the future if we do more and more events, we might get a little bit stricter with the camouflage patterns. But turning up in Multicam Tropic and DPM wasn't, the guy said to me, I felt like a right lemon when I was walking to Chrono in my Multicam Tropics. And so I guess the first bit of advice is read. Read
more like a lime than a lemon,
Yeah. read the rules and try and understand them. You don't want to turn up to a MilSim, certainly not your first MilSim, treating it like a walk-on skirmish event that's just extended. You do need to read the information that's available. If there is something that you're not sure of, then ask a question. So you can reach out to us. I mean, I'm talking about us specifically. I don't know what other companies do, but you can reach out to us via our website, which goes straight to an instant messenger service. You can reach out to us. We run WhatsApp community chats. We've got group chats. You can ask your questions. Now, don't get me wrong. I might roll my eyes and say, well, that's a bit of a silly question, but I'd rather answer a silly question than see a silly mistake.
Mm-hmm.
I think the other.
Yeah, don't be afraid to ask questions. Even
Absolutely.
like when you put into your sections, and normally a WhatsApp group starts up with that section. Just don't be afraid to ask, because I think that's what's going to let yourself down more than anything else.
Yeah, I think that there certainly was a big stigma around MilSim being elitist and kind of a nasty place to be a new person. And it's always been one of our core values to try and break that. Right? We like to be as supportive as possible to newcomers, okay, and at the same time provide a decent challenge to those that are more experienced. So we try and cater what we do to match those levels. Okay, but we want to nurture those guys. We want to answer the questions. Okay, we want to see new people enter the hobby that is MilSim. Also,
we do as well. That's one of the main reasons for this show as well.
Yeah,
you've got to try and break down those barriers, because if people don't start enjoying MilSims or coming along thinking that we've got an elitist sort of idea to ourselves, then eventually the MilSim side of things is going to die away, and
I think so,
a lot of players won't want that. So I do think it is that
there's a huge stigma that I can't do a 24-hour game. I haven't got nods. Bullshit. Absolute bullshit. You ask anybody on Op4 at Op Irene if they needed nods that weekend. Yeah, because Op4 absolutely at times wiped the floor with Task Force, and they had no nods.
Yeah,
I didn't have anything. Like
James said Op4 need training on how not to kill Task Force.
Yeah, there was a lot more death in our event than there was during Operation Gothic Serpent, and that is saying something.
Yeah.
But again, lessons learned, and maybe we will put the reins on Op4 a little bit more next time around. I don't know, tie them together, make them do a 3-legged race or something like that. I don't know.
Just to slow them down.
We certainly do something. Yeah, in all seriousness, I have thought about how we can make that a little bit better, a little bit more immersive, because it's difficult as an airsofter, even if you're playing the role of an indigenous Op4 rebellion, not to clear a corner in a proper way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because do you know what? Getting shot kind of hurts. So we'll see. That's one for the future.
So in terms of, you mentioned that there's a few things that might have been learnt by a few people. Talked about checking the information beforehand. Is there anything else that you saw? I mean, I'm always interested to look at how people kind of kit themselves out and deal with themselves from an admin perspective and welfare, and sort of like looking after themselves a little bit. Because I think for the most part, the difference between skirmish and MilSim, like, if you got your airsoft gun, then for the most part you can, as long as you follow the gameplay and kind of get involved from that perspective, you can kind of pick that up. Whereas making sure you've got enough kit and the right kit to look after yourself, I think is probably the challenge that a lot of people have.
Yeah. Well, I take more stuff to a skirmish than I do to a MilSim. Like, I literally just take everything. And it gets thrown into the back of what was my car.
Was the car?
Like, literally, I just used to throw every bit of it, even if like a Bergen full of empty BB bottles was thrown in the back. Like, oh, what happens if I need a bottle to put other BBs in? Do you know what I mean? And I think with skirmishers moving over to MilSim, it's actually that way of thinking of actually, I've got to nail it down. I can't bring
Well,
absolutely everything.
yeah, I think at the same time, it depends what event you're going to. If you're going to an urban event, you don't necessarily need to worry so much about protection from the elements in terms of your sleeping system. You can get away with a cot bed as long as you can get away with that, and a decent quality sleeping bag, right? And you know, prices of this stuff, it's not ridiculous. I mean, I would say, you know, you need to make sure that you have your food, and I have to be honest, I very rarely eat properly at events. I mean, I eat before well, and I eat after well. During, I don't, and this is just me. I don't feel like I have time, or I have other things to deal with. You know, your order of priorities should be, and at least is for me when I'm running events, is, you know, my event, my weapon, my kit, and then myself. You know, so I care about the event first, and then I'll bomb up mags, make sure gas mags, all that sort of stuff. Then I'll square away my kit and, you know, do whatever I need to do, and then I'll deal with myself. So that might be eating, you know, all the way down to brushing my teeth and remembering to do medication, I suppose, at some instances. But yeah, you know, it's. But anyway, my point is, yes, food is important because you don't want to go down, you know, as some sort of casualty. But at the same time, you know, the right food. You know, you don't have to get the yummiest thing ever, because I tell you what, you're going to be stuffing it in your face and you're going to be moving quick. Yeah, your eating will be in the smallest periods of downtime, so that you can then either get your head down and get as much rest as possible, or get back out on the ground. That's my experience anyway. I know people tend to do things at their own pace. Not when I'm task force commander, but yes, people do tend to do things at their own pace. But do you know what? If you spend one or two events slightly uncomfortable, you'll learn from it. You know, and then you'll find your own style and adapt to the situation.
Or watch some of our previous episodes.
You get some advice. Yeah.
Yeah.
How about you, Kev? Did you?
Handy tips.
Yeah, you get advice.
You do have to sit through a lot. You do have to sit through a lot of string and blowpipes, but yeah, there is some nuggets of gold.
I'm here to cater to the you know, the elitist bunch that care about those sorts of things. Kev, I was just going to say, did you sort of come across any newbies that might have, you know, sort of fallen into some of the common pitfalls at all? Or
you know, it's like the one thing I sort of felt is, and it's not a negative. It's something that I learned from it. Was we had the initial kind of you know, think of Black Hawk Down sort of training beforehand, then the insertion, then the assault, then the follow up, and obviously we had people like going down the Kajivac to break them back to the stadium or the launch point and go back in. But what I found was that I come over that 4 hours into the event where I was literally like, James works on nicotine and hate, I work on chocolate bars and protein bars or something.
Yeah, so a friend of mine's just messaged me, you know, about kit to take, which for me is caffeine, nicotine and hate. That's what I run on at an event. That's a phrase that pops up a lot: caffeine, nicotine and hate. I'm not a role model by any sense of the imagination.
So I pretty much kept going all the way through to about 5 o'clock on Sunday morning, and I knew that we were doing in the film, the idea of the convoy coming out. So James Means, who's working with us that weekend, is one of our DS. He was bringing the vehicles out. So I went back knowing that I have another DS on the ground who knew what was happening. And I literally got my head down for like 50 minutes, and then after that I just threw a pot of porridge down my throat quickly at 6 o'clock in the morning, back out again.
I mean, I would say though that particular event, Irene, you know, at least I hope you know the storyline for Black Hawk Down or Operation Gothic Serpent, right? They didn't stop because there were people on the ground, wounded, dying, that they had to extract. They didn't stop. and to an extent, we tried to run the event that hard, okay, and literally kick people out of bed to do it. Now, like I say, to an extent, because we do have a duty care over drivers, but within your sections, you can organise to hand your drivers back in, and you can cover for them. I think. I mean, if I can segue into our raid event before I do it, before we do it properly, I know Kevin will probably hate me for saying this, but I think it actually potentially is a really good introduction or stepping stone into MilSim. That's not to say that it's not a MilSim. I mean, there's no proper definition on MilSim, but my view on it is you've got to have command and control, communication, and structure. So that will be team structure. And we will definitely have that. But within your sections, effectively, it's down to you to manage your time. So no one's going to tell you that you have to be on stag, or no one's going to tell you that you have to go and do this. Everybody will get a document that will tell them what's going on at what time. Okay, so they can say, oh, actually, I don't really fancy that one. I'm going to get my head down for 2 hours or 3 hours or whatever it might be. And that's up to them, because it is an objective-based, points-based event, that's how we're going to run it. We're going to leave it up to the individuals as to how much time they want in the field or how much time they're going to need to boil a pot noodle.
Oh.
Let's just bring up the raid image there. So when is raid? Raid is October, November.
November.
It is. I'm trying to remember now. My date.
That's fine. I found it. 25th, 26th of November. HQ Driftfield. So this is obviously, we were sort of talking just a little bit before the show about it, but raid is a slightly different event than things that you've kind of done before, from my understanding. So can you talk us through about what is raid, kind of as a summary?
So typically, I mean, we run a few different styles of event, as you guys know, because you've been to most of them. So we've done our interactive role play events, which is kind of our bread and butter. That's what we really enjoy doing. Okay. We also do our Machiavellian events, and don't get me wrong, I think they're amazing. Actually, to be fair, they're probably my favourite events. And
Agreed, yeah.
I personally think they're probably the hardest events in the MilSim scene. But I'm maybe slightly biased. And I wouldn't necessarily recommend that for a first-time MilSimmer, although we have had people do it for their first time, and they actually made it to the end.
I thought it was pretty easy.
We should have a badge.
15 minutes.
We should have a badge. Yeah,
we should have a Machiavellian Survivor patch or sticker made up. The last Machiavellian we did, we had about a 50% attrition rate. Now I am counting the people that didn't bother turning up because the weather looked bad. I am counting them. They failed before it began. So anyway, let me recap. So we do our immersive role play events, which is, as it sounds, there's a lot of role play, a lot of build up, a lot of tension. We do our Machiavellian events, which are typically reconnaissance based. We have now done Irene, which is kind of a historic event, if you like. So it does follow a very, very set, rigid timeline. But we noticed when we were running our immersive MilSim events, our immersive roleplay events, that there were quite a few individuals that were absolutely massively hungry to get their trigger on. And I don't want to. It was slightly detrimental to the game plan that we had in mind. Okay, which is all about the slow build up and the tension, and then we break it, and it all goes a bit nuts, right? But they kind of wanted to get a fight on straight away, and I kind of believe that there is a lack of MilSim events out there at the moment, which could be why this behaviour has occurred. So we wanted to provide an outlet for it. So that's the idea. There will be no role play. It will be straight into the action. There'll be at no point you won't know what you're doing because you'll be sitting there with a card that says, "Oh, it's 2:00. This is my objective. Great, I'll go do this. This is my objective. This is where it is." So if you're an old school MilSimmer, this is probably going to be an easy one for you, but very enjoyable because there will be a lot of action. If you're new to MilSim, again, it's going to be very easy for you. You don't necessarily have to worry too much about your Gucci comms arrays and all that sort of stuff, because exactly what you want is written there for you. We're going to have plenty of staff on site. We're going to have staff embedded playing. We're going to have high vis staff, and we're going to have our command element at a static location. So if you've ever got a question, you can go and find them. If you can't get them on comms or you don't have comms capabilities. So we're really trying to create an umbrella.
We could say you're trying to bridge the gap between Airsoft MilSim and Skirmishing.
Yeah.
I
think it's a good idea.
To an extent.
I do think, personally, that there is definitely a place in the world for battle sims. I think battle sims are a lot looser than the event style that we're going to run. Battle sims normally don't have a proper command and control element, whereas we will have that.
I don't think many battle sims run for full 24 hours. They kind of like.
I was just going to say that. I think that's possibly one of the elements as well to consider.
Well, I'm going to disagree with that. I don't think the time span makes a difference to whether it is a MilSim or not. I mean, you can do a direct action mission as a MilSim that could last only a few hours, but it would be a MilSim because that's the way you've angled it, right? So it doesn't have to be 24 hours plus to be a MilSim, in my view. It's all about how it's managed and generally the effort that the players put in. So there is a lot of there is a lot of mine's gone blank. There's a lot on the player's shoulders to make the event what it is.
But then again, in a way, it's quite good for newcomers. Like you said, if they are feeling tired, you're giving them the option of saying, actually, well, I'll sit this one out, and you can kind of say, well, you are going to miss out, but if they're really that tired, then yeah. Fair enough. Like they are going to miss out, but I think the way that you're describing it, he's actually going to be cracking for first timers. I think it'll be a brilliant event.
Most of our rule set has stayed. Most of it has stayed as is. We have watered them down a little bit. For example, we're not going to be allowing blank fire. We're not going to be allowing capturing and that element of role play. But yeah, so they have been slightly reduced, but the core of what Defiant does is definitely going to be there. But there'll be a lot more plastic slinging. So if that's your thing, then go grab a ticket,
So there's just the two factions on this event, or is there going to be any?
No, just the two. No, just the two. Keep it
simple.
Old-fashioned
green versus tan. Green versus tan, effectively.
Pretty much, it's green versus tan. Except, you may remember some time back we were we have I quite often wear the tomahawk patch, which signifies our task force teams, and then you have the tomahawk, which represents Op4 teams, and the spearhead that does task force. I'm forever wearing that on my kit, and so we're bringing that back as a resurgence. So you'll either belong to the tomahawk green team or the spearhead tan team. Neither is good. There is no Op4 as it is. They're both PMC units. It's just they're in slightly different clothing. Yeah, that's about it.
Cool. What sort of you mentioned obviously that there's going to be sort of various taskings and that. What sort of, without giving too much away, because I don't want to like ruin the surprise of the gameplay, etc. But are we talking like? I guess I don't want to use like capture the flag and stuff like that, because I think that diminishes what we're talking about. But
we would never do that.
Yeah. So to give an example, we're playing at Driffield. They've got the vehicles. We get used to the vehicles. So one of the things we're going to build in with the vehicles is there'll be a fuel dump. All right. Now, if Spearhead have got the fuel dump, they have access to the vehicles to go for future missions and future operations on the site. If they lose the fuel dump, the drivers who are our DS will know that, and then the vehicles will then go over to the Greens, the Tomahawk, and they'll then have access to the vehicle. So, it's not capture the flag, but
that's capture. It's capture the flag with extra steps, isn't it? Let's be fair. It's capture the flag with cooler.
That's fine.
There's actually a benefit to doing it. So that will be a constant movable feat throughout the weekend. So but to actually make sure you've got it, control it, and if you want to be able to move players from your start point, respawn point to an objective, there's an incentive to hold the fuel dump so that you've got access to the sort of mobility aspect of the event. So it's bringing in vehicles which people associate with like good MilSim events or good events. So there's a reason to do it, and you've got to do something to gain access to the vehicle. So the teams will hopefully, one team will keep defending that, so other teams can move, will rotate through and rotate in rest periods. So if you're going to coordinate your teams, you'll do that. But if everyone goes to bed, then you're going to lose the vehicles, you're going to lose the fuel dump, and the other team will run a riot all night long because they've got vehicles all night long. So there is going to be some incentive to actually engage with the process.
That sounds cool.
I like that.
There's you go to other events and it's like Task Force have got all the Land Rovers and the guns and whatever else thing, and they don't swap over to their side. They're not a case of like a vehicle pool's destroyed or taken. But this one here is actually, there's an incentive to doing it. It's got that element that you might be used to your skirmish site, but it's taken into that sort of 24-hour MilSim event. So that's what I'm saying. I'd call it like a hybrid mission between what you might be used to on your kind of like your initial sort of like current sort of like Sunday weekend game to something moving into that 24-hour longer type event.
Just going to pull up a comment.
So you're not having...
So just very quickly,
Sorry,
Ray said, for people watching, Raid is in November, further north than Kent. It will be cold and you will need a coat.
That'll be fine. You can just cuddle Rage. That's what he's there for.
Yeah.
He'll be there in his furry Crocs.
Yeah. That's his feet.
You just don't shave them.
Yeah.
With the,
so is there going to be no sort of
sorry,
sieve
Andy,
pop or anything? Yeah, is there going to be like no sort of sieve pop or anything?
There's absolutely no role. Absolutely no. I mean, so we say no role play element, right? There won't be a sieve pop, right? There might be role play in the effect of we'll have high value individuals or target individuals that are playing a role, that are a target, to be captured or what have you. But you will not have a sieve pop element running around, like the village drunk. There is no role play like that. It is force on force combat scenario. There is effectively nothing out there that you can't shoot at.
So to give another example of an incentive for players, let's say for instance James on the ground and he gets shot by Mike, all right, and all of a sudden James will bring out.
It's not going to happen, is it? We need to turn this around.
Yeah. Well, you've only got one eye, so So James somehow.
That's the only way I can get him, is if the person I'm shooting is.
One eye, and you shoot him from the right.
Yeah. No, honestly,
and he's in a
so
wheelchair, yeah.
Sorry,
sorry, Kev.
Sorry. Yeah, so we're looking at that idea of like, so obviously there'll be objectives. If you're taking that possession, you've got the fuel dump, you've got the vehicles, you've got objectives and points to gain. But if, say for instance, Mike shoots James holds up a yellow card, it'll be a case of like, if rather than our standard medic rules will apply, fight, tourniquet on, whatever else, James is back into play. But if you can capture James's card and take that back to your commander, you will gain points for that towards your side row because you've actually killed effectively. You've actually got an HVI and you've taken them out. So a lot of other events will take a picture of the dead person, whatever else, but you've got the card. But we can then recycle the cards back around into the event to create further points as well. So it's yeah, I really class it as a hybrid, but we want to challenge people to go a bit longer than the kind of 2 hours, then have a lunch for an hour, then have 2 hours in the afternoon, go home at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, which is the kind of standard airsoft site, MilSim type or battle
It is
event.
important to add that everybody will be sleeping under a roof. Now, I mean, to be fair, the roofs aren't the most watertight in places, but no matter what, you'll find yourself a dry spot. So you don't have to worry about tents and bashers and bivvy bags. You don't need all that kit. You just need a bed of sorts, and then you'll be squared away. We like cot beds. Cot beds are the best.
I was just going to say, I mean,
It's
like,
so
you can
easy
get
to
a
put
cot
up.
bed for
They're quick,
20
they're
quid.
lightweight.
You can't. I mean, you don't have to get the British Army ones because apparently, you say
Is that the one
very
with or
difficult.
without the adjustment straps?
That's the one without the adjustment straps.
Right.
Yeah. So, but I mean, like, just quickly browsing on Decathlon, you can get a very basic camping bed for like 30 quid. That just gives you that little bit of elevation off the floor because I mean the floors. Having camped at Driffield,
Yeah, you don't want to be on the deck.
Yeah, not to say you can't, but it's just I think it was just nice having that slight elevation off of it. But
if you want to go real luxury, you can pick up a cart bed off of eBay for like the same sort of price.
Yeah.
Well, what do you think I do? I mean, when I'm literally there for 4 nights, doing setup, I do the cart fishing bed chair. Mine's a pretty Gucci one because I'm a sad.
Just look in the chat there. James, there's a question from James Gore. Can fobs be raided? Can fobs be raided? So the answer to that is it is a 24-hour game site. However, in the evening, yes, you can. People will have to sleep with iPro because everyone is in the game area. But the idea that is there necessarily an objective to gain from that? So shooting people as they were sleeping or in their sleep area. If there was an HBI in there, an identified HBI to get, so James and HBI, there'd be benefit. But there's no point in just going shooting people when they're sleeping or whatever else, because there's got to be, it will still be linked into the story, but it will be a 24-hour live site, and everyone in the game will be everyone in the site will be part of the event at that point.
Can I just round that up into one sentence for Mr. James Gore because he's quite simple, right? The answer to that is yes, but you won't earn any points for it. Okay, done.
You could have a wicked time doing it.
Points make prizes.
There's quite a few messages from James. Apologies, James. I have queued them up. I haven't gone back.
I told you
James.
He's talking about silly questions. Yet we allow silly questions.
No, he's not asking silly questions. Presumably he was the one with the RPK.
Yes.
Off Irene, because I know that I'd heard a few stories about the RPK, and he said RPK go.
He basically was a one-man army at night, ripping into top cover on just running around with an RPK, being a menace. I don't think he slept.
All RPK gunners should do. I approve, James. You have my respect.
Yeah, so I think. So I got up about 3:34 in the morning, and he came back in with this biggish shitty grin on his face.
He had that all weekend.
Guess what I've been doing? And then he went, right, I'm going to get my head down. And he must have had about an hour and a half before he got up and then got back at it. But yeah, the 4 guys, they had a good time. We're just going to shorten that leash a bit, especially on James. Mr. James Gore. In fact, we might just nail his feet to the ground. It'll be a lot easier.
So, James, I'll do the next one, and we can run RPKs together.
You're not going to take the PKM?
Huh?
You're not going to take the PKM?
Or KPM? I've got an RPK.
I thought you had a PKM.
PKM the box bag. Our PK is the standard bag, isn't it? Yeah.
But you've mate, I don't want to tell
Hang
you
on,
what
what have
guns
I
you've got, but you've definitely got a PKM, not an RPK.
Yeah, I've got.
You've got the
PKM,
big
haven't I?
boy.
Yeah, I've got the big.
I thought
boy.
you had a.
Yeah.
You've got
It's
the
these
big
drugs.
boy. He's got
Yeah,
the
it's these
little
drugs.
boy. I think you need to go to bed, Andy.
Oh, mate. The painkillers are
drugs
starting
don't
to
work.
kick in. No, they're kicking in. That's the trouble.
So just going back to Opera Irene, I've completely forgot the question I was going to ask about Opera Arena. I'll go to another question I had. So, Red Tide 3, which was a while ago now. I think that was probably a good example of an event where there was a lot of itchy trigger fingers. How did you?
That really is what inspired us to do a raid event.
Yeah,
basically,
raid,
there's clearly a demand for a fucking punch up in a phone box, right? So that's what we're going to give them.
Yeah, but I mean, at the event, Kev's gone. At the event itself,
Okay.
how did you as an event organizer sort of deal with that? Because appreciate that you've got an event that's running. You want it to run a relative certain way. I know there's a bit of flexibility with what players can do and that, but ultimately you've got a goal as to kind of what you want to achieve. So how do you deal when it starts to not go off the rails, but start to get a little bit out of control on that front?
How did we deal with it? Well, actually, I mean, I didn't. I just got shitty with it, right? But we had 3 teams, okay, and we had an entire team at that event that were kind of self-sufficient. So we had 2 cartels, effectively, or 2 gangs. And what we did is we took an element of one of the gangs just to go and smash the ever-loving granny out of the ones that wanted to fight. And so that was going on to the side. It was kind of like the children's play area was happening over the back, right? and everybody that wanted to do the immersive role play event kind of got on with it. So and it was funny because those people that wanted to go hard early and get their trigger on, most of them were so knackered that they could not sustain 24 hours because they burnt their energy too quickly.
They tuckered themselves out and they needed
They were like, oh, we want to fight, we're going to go do this, and we're like, okay, well, we enabled it, and I think they got over 8 hours sleep apiece and missed out on some of the really the best elements of that event.
I did assassinate one of the players who actually opened up on the DA early, because he actually. So one of the players got really itchy and started to bomb DA about 12:30. So I just turned around.
So we started at 11, right? Told that they needed to do role play, move drugs, create drugs, all that kind of stuff, and he decided that DEA have just hit the streets. I'm going to shoot one of them. Yeah, okay.
So I decided literally. I figured out who it was, and I got him. I pulled him aside, and I did a mock execution because he drew unnecessary heat towards our operation in the city, which was basically somebody sort of black fire. And we put your phone in his ear and did a black fire and actually shot him and he fell to the ground. So I role played it. But it was also the case, like, okay, calm down. We don't do that at this moment in time. But, that's a bit where raid comes in because there are players that want to get the trigger on early and want to have that time. But, we know, the thing is, we know from our events and going to other events and playing other event organisers, like, if you go too hard at the beginning, you will not survive into nighttime. You will not survive into the Sunday morning. You will burn yourself out. So you can't really go into any level of 24-hour event with the skirmish mentality of going 100 miles an hour, because you will crash and burn. You won't enjoy the whole event. You'll miss a lot of the event just because you go too hard.
Nobody can speed soft for 24 hours. That's an awful lot of caffeine.
Yeah, that is.
Nicotine antates.
No, fair enough. Yeah, I mean, I know sort of being on the ground when that was happening at the time, it was a little bit like, right, what do we do? Because there's like a massive firefight going off in the building behind us. It's like, right, sort of ran in, sort of just shouting at the DEA, like, don't shoot me, I need to get my guys out. So yeah, I
Oh,
know
it's
it
your
was an
fault. You
interesting
started
challenge.
it.
I didn't start
Yeah,
it.
it's all
You
your
started it.
fault.
You shot first.
I
You
had
turned
nothing
up.
to do with that event at all. I wasn't even there. You know.
I know for a fact you were, because I spent a fair few hours in the police cell shouting at you. So
I was asleep at that point.
He was asleep at
yeah, I
that
know.
point.
I was still shouting for you though.
It was me that you were shouting at.
I figured out your cell was the opposite end of the fob from me. I was not going to hear you. That was good.
He did that on purpose.
Yeah. So I've just remembered the question I was going to ask about Op Irene. So you obviously had quite a large task force element in comparison, I believe, to your Op 4 element. Did you find that?
Yeah, so we had 65 task force and 25 Op 4.
Did you find that was enough Op for that event, or?
So, I mean, I've been writing events, 24-hour games, etc., for a long time now, writing and running them. And there's a term that when I first started writing them with an old colleague of mine, when I sort of marshalled and ran a site, we used to use the term magic pencil, right? And the magic pencil is basically used to sway a firefight in the direction that you want to sway it in. Okay, and quite simply, what we did here is we made Op 4 respawns a hell of a lot faster and simpler than Task Force. So Task Force bleed out times were longer. Okay, they had more medic lives, but they had to then go to a casualty collection point and wait for a vehicle pickup. Yeah? And their respawn point was a good distance away, next to all their kit. So they had the temptation of, oh, should I stay? And then they got booted the hell back onto a vehicle and dropped off back in the site again, right? But you see, that turnaround time was a little bit longer. I mean, they were dead standing. They were knackered. But comparatively, Op 4 were dead, down, there was no medic life at all. So hit, dead, down for a period, move yourself out of dodge, go to the extremity of the site, whatever it is, and then move around the site, come back in at a different angle. So it was much more dynamic for them, and we were, by doing that, I don't think it worked all of the time, and there were certainly some things that I'm going to change up going into the next one. I think if you don't learn from your events, then stop doing them. But yeah, I think it worked for the most part to create that overwhelming force. I mean, I'm sure Kevin felt like he was having his back doors punched in all night long.
Yeah, it was, to be honest, it didn't feel as if there was only 25 guys doing Op 4. It felt like 225. It did have that Black Hawk Down story event. It was like the rules, we got it just about right. As James said earlier on, sometimes they were a little bit too operated because they are, they're experienced airsofters, they've done MilSim, they conduct themselves and use concealment and cover really properly, really well. Whereas the actual Somali citizens at that time, with ID, they pretty much stayed outside and just shot at Rangers and dealt inside buildings. They didn't go into buildings to hunt them down. But we obviously had players at our event who are that capable that would actually go and do that. So that's the bit that was different to the real life story.
Yeah, somebody was quite upset when we had a unit of about 8 or 9 that managed to creep through a window, get up the stairs without being noticed. And suddenly it's close quarter battle, where nods don't count for shit. So that, that sort of takes us sort of full circle. What we were talking about there with people that were booked on to an interactive role play event and didn't necessarily understand that it was an interactive role play event and it was going to be a slow burn. All of that information is there, especially if you do a bit of research about what Defiant events is about. It's all there. So maybe their expectations weren't met on that one. But yeah, definitely do your research, do your reading. Nods are great fun. They're a great tool. But you don't need them to get into MilSim. Certainly not. To be fair, a lot of nod users just bloody flexing them now. Don't know how to use them. And a lot of, myself included. A lot of... You see this. So, like, you know, I was on the Op4 team for Irene, and we weren't using nods. But then, as soon as people strap night vision or image intensifiers to the head or whatever unit they're using to look through, their situational awareness really dims down to nothing because you've got 40-degree angle of view, but also their movements change. They feel more confident because they feel like they've got a superpower. Okay, I don't care who you are, but if you stood in the middle of a corridor, whether you got nods on or not, and there's somebody using cover efficiently, you're going to lose no matter how much you've spent on nods. And you see this, people will move around on the nods, not being aware of the way in which they're moving, not picking to move through shadow, not necessarily picking the route with concealment. So I think a lot of the time night vision users, complacency occurs.
I did an
100%.
event. I did an event last weekend, and there was 3 guys who didn't have nods. And what they did was, in buildings, they put a silo every 5 or 6 steps on the stairs, and the super secret soldier night vision guys walking in. Obviously, they're kind of seeing they've got a bit of light and walking upstairs, but the guys were sitting in the corners. And even then, NV wouldn't pick you up in the corner, but they could just see the shadow moving over the silence and shot so many people wearing nods. It was ridiculous, the body count they got. Exactly the same as James was doing with the Alt4 guys at Irene, moving, using shadows and whatever else against, your £8,000 dual tube night vision guys that have bought stuff as well. And it was crazy last weekend just seeing guys who knew what to do, put 3 or 4 pounds of silums on the stairs in the hallway, and actually got the edge on night vision users all weekend. It was crazy. You can do it. You can do it for a couple of pounds if you've got a little bit of common sense, a little bit of nonsense about you. You can actually overcome night vision users.
Oh yeah,
that's quite nice.
It's
quite a nice little segue to last week's episode where we actually did an episode on fighting in the dark. So if you're interested in checking that one out, go back and watch that one.
I have to be honest, I kind of turned that one off in a bit of a fit of rage. After your guest said, "Oh, there's no point in doing MilSim unless you've got night vision," I went, "Nope," and I may have turned off.
No, I think that was Kenny's perspective on it. I mean, I must profess there have been events where I've been to which it's so dark I just can't see to move around in, and there was one particular event which was full of rabbit holes and the like, and I'd already gone down one earlier in the day, and I was so terrified of either falling down a rabbit hole and breaking my leg or running into a tree.
I would say urban events without nods are certainly a lot easier, and because generally, at least where we're talking about Driffield, it's surrounded by industrial complexes in a town, so you get a lot of
ambient light.
You get a lot of ambient light.
It's quite light there.
Even, so things changed massively since doing Red Type 3. It was almost like a jungle in places, right? But there was still, even with me, I can't see at night at the best of times, and one eye is completely blind, right? It was funny as hell. I was walking, thinking, "Oh, there's someone in front of me. I'll just pop my hand on their shoulder." No, that's a ghost. Never mind. That's not really a person there. But it's doable. Take it slowly, and you'll be all right, and you'll learn from it. But I guess on the flip side of that, I did go to a skirmish event once, and I was the only person with. I had a single tube at the time, and after skulking about, taking a few guys out, I thought this is bloody well unfair, because it was absolutely pitch black. There was no ambient light at all. It was a new moon with a heavy canopy. There was nothing. So there are times when, it's always an advantage. Don't get me wrong. There is an advantage, but there are certainly some drawbacks to it. When you're sitting there, when you're sitting there with your green or white phos in your eyes, and you can't pick to move through shadow. You're not really aware of the situation.
Yeah.
There's we've just got quite a few comments coming in. I've sort of been, Andy and I've been tagging them, we've been going through, but there's a few questions. I think if we just wrap through the rest of the questions, we'll go through sort of come the comments because I'm conscious of the time. We unfortunately, I know it's always a pleasure having you gents on and having a natter
we
away. I
talk
know we could be here all night.
I haven't even been drinking tonight.
Ed says, are we allowed to camp the Friday night? So presumably this is for raid.
Check the website. It's all there, mate. Sorry. But yes, you are allowed. Yeah, we are opening the gates for booking in on Friday. You'll be able to come in. You'll get set up in your, I don't want to call it a fob because it's not a fob, but you'll go to your base area, the area near where your command will be. You'll be able to set up your sleep station wherever you're going to be, sort your kit out, have a bit of a social. We don't allow drinking, but yes, you can do all of that sort of stuff.
Cool. Daz says, what about maps? Do you need one?
So we always provide a digital copy, and then you can either be utterly reliant on technology and power and have it on your phone or your, if you've got one of those Gucci flip down things, or you can print it out yourself. But yeah, so we'll provide you with a map to either print yourself or do what you will.
Cool. There's a bit of chat about night vision. I can't read all the comments out, but Ryan's currently out on holiday. So
yeah.
For those that know Ryan, he's obviously not on holidays. He's busy working. But
no, he's not. He's
not busy working.
He's at work. Leave him alone. Ryan says the majority of the blokes I work with don't know how to use nods, let alone airsofters.
Getting deployment pay on the beach.
Silly Giddy asks a question. He says, do you think that an event without a storyline but has set objectives has the chance of being a bit more organic and therefore players won't suspect the magic pen is at play?
I very rarely think that players are aware that the magic pencil is in play. I think maybe some do. Personally, I enjoy a storyline. So, from my perspective, to run an event, it has to have those elements in it for me.
Yeah. So I was at an event the weekend. It was task force, bad guys, and police. Now the event organizer had based it. Now, the numbers would have been like police plus Op 4 would have equaled task force, but Op 4 were hammering task force enough all weekend that police stayed in that sort of neutral role. So that was really good running by the event organizer, where they actually turned around and maintained as much parity as they could. But if they'd gone equal numbers, police aligned themselves with bad guys, it would have been ridiculous. And you'd have upset like 90 guys who'd booked on one particular faction for that weekend. So, the magic pencil is actually the magic pencil is actually there to enhance players' experience and their enjoyment for the weekend, that we have got a little bit of leeway to actually change things if necessary to ensure that there's parity, fairness, and people have a good event.
Cool, fair point. He also said magic pen instead of magic pencil. I picked that one up. Clearly not listening properly. Les says, what's the plans for 2024 of Defiant doing events down in the south?
Nah, we just stay up north, mate. We're going to go Scotland.
Yeah, we're northern. Yeah, we're northern now. Yeah.
Where's Lance? So, yeah. I've got a bone to pick with him.
Yeah, where's Lance?
Wait, Lance, get in touch.
Get in touch. Events down south, Lance, sort us out. So yeah. So our obviously we've got raided the last bit of the year. The next thing James and I do is we start our road trips. We start looking at sites and booking sites for next year. We've built up relationships with different sites we played with this year. They've invited us back to do events as well. Yes, some of them are up north, and we've got a lot of people up north as well. We've been looking at down south. We have sites we've used before. we get in touch with them. You know, there's always the Airsoft panacea of mod sites coming back online, but who knows where that will become eventuality.
It's quite funny, really, isn't it, Kevin? Because it's only this year that we've run events up north. Prior to that, every comment we ever got was, when are you going to run events up north? And as soon as we do a year that is predominantly north, now we have done one event this year down south, but, you know, as soon as we do events that's definitely...
Just upset everyone and do
hang
it
on,
in Wales.
I had to cross the Dartford crossing, so technically that's
So it's north. It's north. Yeah, it's north for you. Yeah.
My point is, I mean, look, the thing is, there are so few events about, so few quality events, and as Defiant events, we're never going to run more than definitely no more than 6 in a year, because Kevin and I have both got full-time jobs. We do this as a hobby. We do this for fun. Okay, and
When the fun starts.
I know it's very stressful fun. There's shitloads of stress, and then after you've done it, if you've done a good job, it's massively rewarding, right? But the build-up is, I mean, I lost my hair, definitely. Let's put it that way. I mean, Kevin had gone a long time before that, but anyway, he had a big ginger afro before that. Anyway,
yeah. We had tartan bonnet round about it.
Yeah, there are so few events about. If you want to go to good events, unfortunately, you're going to have to travel. That's we can't just come and run events on your doorstep, right? We pick the sites that work, or the sites that we think will work, the ones that are available, and that's all we can do. That's all we can do. How we did recently. Sorry, mate.
Sorry, you're finished. Sorry, please finish. Yeah.
So we did recently. We put some. We reached out for some input on Instagram. So basically, for if people own, run, or have anything to do with the site, reach out. We got a load of feedback from that, and basically what I managed to do in some way, shape, or form is group them together somewhat geographically and say, you know, where would you like us to look into? So we've got some information back from that, and like I say, it's going to be long road trips through the dark of winter with Kevin and I in dirty travel lodges and stuff like that with stopovers to go and find sites. Go and build those relationships with site owners and probably spend hours more on the phone to Landmark.
Yeah. So as Jim said, it's like you come to site. So we were told to go and visit Apocalypse, so we went up there. I'd played there a long time ago. We went there as well, and we just looked at the site. We did the site visit, got on really well with the guys up there, and we got in the car and we're coming back home. We just looked at each other and went, Red Tide 2. You see a site, you just get a vibe straight away of what it fits towards. So we might go and see someone and say, like, that would be great for a Machiavellian event. Okay, that would be really great.
We've also been to sites, we've come back and going, no, it's a great site, but it's not providing me the inspiration to run an event.
Yeah.
I mean, that might mean that we go back to it at a later date, but at that point in time, wasn't feeling it.
It doesn't fit with what we want for ourselves, yeah.
But yeah, cool. Somebody commented Longmore. I mean,
I saw that, yeah.
It's not like
I've just accidentally deleted that comment by mistake. I apologise, Les. I didn't unselect it for some reason. I just clicked delete. So I apologise.
So I mean,
delete comments.
I've spent an awful long time on the phone with various members of Landmark this week, anyway, because I decided that I was going to make a push for it. To be honest with you, it's all very difficult at the moment because there is a backlog of training left over from COVID times, lockdown. COVID no longer exists. Someone should tell Lance. But yeah, there's a backlog of training from that COVID era where they weren't able to do training. And then, of course, we went into or are currently in the Ukraine conflict, and there's a lot of training still going on. So the training requirements for our own forces takes, believe it or not, precedence over Airsoft, right? At this point in time, there are a few range officers or Landmark, what they call themselves, contacts that are willing to take anybody on because the chances are they're going to have to cancel, and it's more effort to them than it's worth. So I think as a happy accident, we always planned to do or to go. I mean, we got insurance for MOD land, but we always planned to do MOD base areas. Was it this year or last year? It was last year, wasn't it?
Last year would have been, yeah.
Yeah. But because I think we've been, to be honest, it's a bit of a happy accident because we have historically run on airsoft sites and either modified them or made use of what we can to make it work. And I'd like to think that we're pretty good at it and it works. So we are able to survive and keep going because of that. The way we run things. So never say never. Longmore might happen. There are many sites that might happen, but it is a might. You know, there is no point. You know, until I say, or until we say we have got Longmore or Cope Hill or whatever it is. It's we know no more than you do, which is pretty much feck all, isn't it? But yeah, that is the state of things, unfortunately.
So I suppose all I could say is we are positioned that if the opportunity becomes available within a time frame, that we would want to be in the position that we can turn around and announce it. But you know, we know from other event organisers, even before between the pandemic and Ukraine, that people were called off as well. So, you know, I would rather run 5 events on airsoft sites next year that I know would happen than promise to run 10 sites on a mod site and only run 1 or 2, because that's going to lose. We're going to lose. Our customers will lose faith in us, and they'll go somewhere else. So I'd rather be assured of what we can offer. I'd rather be guaranteed to offer 4 really good events on airsoft sites than promise 10 events on mod land that's probably not actually going to materialise.
Just going to say, so basically what we're after is an airsofter who can buy and afford to keep a bit of development land, brownfield buildings and stuff like that free for us. So we can have a little airsoft equivalent of an MOD
I mean,
site.
I know it's north.
That's really hard to say. An airsoft equivalent of an MOD site. There you go.
I mean, I know it's northern, and apparently people don't like the north, but Hull's a shithole. Can we have that?
I think even the people in Hull would say, yeah, that's fine.
Let's just take over Grimsby.
Nah, fuck that. They got better weapons than we have.
I'll never forget. We did an event at the Pleasureland theme park in Grimsby with AI 500 back in the day. And literally as we're driving in, there's just this rather large person just chucking up. This was like 10 in the morning, something like that, just chucking up into the road gully as we pulled in past the sign that says "Welcome to Grimsby." And I was like, "Oh, we're here.
Yeah.
We've arrived."
A few months back, you drove up there and they had a burnt out car put in front of the sign with "Welcome to Grimsby" spray painted on the front. I was like, "Okay, there you go."
Right, last question.
To be fair, you're right. We should start a GoFundMe to buy Grimsby. That's a great idea.
I'll give you a pound.
Last question from Stephen Whitehead. He says, James, have you ever thought about contacting Tarmac? I heard they hosted an emergency response exercise down at Tor recently and might be open to hosting airsoft events.
Never heard of Tarmac. Never heard of Tor, I'm afraid. So please, if you have my contact details, hit me up.
Well, Tarmac's an asphalt manufacturer.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't realise it was a brand. I just thought it was a thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, hit me up on if you've got my contact details, then hit me up. If not, just pop onto our website and you'll see a link to an instant messenger. I can't promise that I'll respond straight away because sometimes I do sleep, depending on the levels of caffeine, nicotine, and hate. But yeah, reach out to me because that sounds interesting.
Looks good. Pictures.
Yeah. If you struggle, drop us a message as well, and we can point you in the right direction.
No,
I know people at Tarmac.
Yeah.
No.
Being a civil engineer, I'll do all sorts of roads.
Don't go talking to that NoFo lot.
Yeah. Right,
Yeah,
I'm going to do a
just-
quick fire
just
comment clear because I'm just conscious of the time. Daz says, how much I need new trousers?
120, I think it was.
Wait for the sales. Yeah, Arctis do some decent sales.
Yeah, they do. But I was
Unfortunately, it's not always on the decent patterns. But yeah, just keep
no,
an
but
eye
they
out.
do have. They have some funky patterns. I'm definitely looking at.
I have to admit, on the one hand, I'm slightly disappointed with you for not getting a really cool, funky pattern. On the other hand, at least you've got a pair of trousers to play on the spearhead side at raid. So
Yeah. Not that I can fit in them at the moment because I've been sat here just buying stuff, eating, and taking drugs. I bought the size that I was.
Richard said, Andy, drop me a line. I'll see if you can get the Arctrex ones for your knee pads.
Lovely.
Rage, though, commenting back on the iPro comments earlier, Rage said, problem with iPro is that there are some out there that are advertised as safe for airsoft that aren't safe. So I don't know. My general feeling on these things is we should encourage people to have personal responsibility. But if you don't know what you're looking for, then maybe we should help them out. So, and I think that's good.
Why is Rage
for-
being nice?
I don't know. It's weird.
I don't like that.
I think with iPro, what I normally do, I normally go for like the ballistic brand, the military would use, or the Americans with ANSI 67 or whatever else. Anything that's rated like that. It's like I would only use something military rated ballistic for airsoft with all the shit stories we get on airsoft. So I either use for like the standard ESSs or something like that. That is military
ESEN 166.
Yeah,
I don't know what the rating is. I don't know what the minimum rating is recommended under that.
C.
But I'm pretty certain that
C or
it's
B.
C. Right. Okay.
Yeah, I think ultimately is as an event organizer or as a company like itself organizing itself, like recommend people go for that level rather than anything on Amazon, Wish, or Newpro, and I use that term loosely as well. I would definitely things you can buy ESS or Wiley X glasses and like Crawley surplus brand new for 40-45 quid, and it is rated as ballistically rated. So compared to like you're buying your stuff on Wish and whatever else and Amazon for like $9.99 or $10.99, what's the difference of £30 for your eyes, your eyesight for life? Yeah, it's just stupid people actually even consider buying that nonsense. I know,
That's
mate.
the thing. I mean, you end up spending 30-40 quid on just peripheral crap. Ultimately, being an airsoft, you kind of go, "Oh, that looks cool." You buy it, and then you end up with just a box of stuff.
And you end up with the shittest, cheapest safety glasses. Yeah.
You bought a £600 gun or riff.
Yeah.
What's 40 quid for a set of glasses?
Yeah. The best investment for yourself: a good pair of boots and a pair of glasses. After that, you're fine. Yeah. Good feet, and you're not going your eyes shot out. So yeah, that's what you go for.
And some decent pants. As a larger guy, I'd recommend some decent pants if you're running around all weekend. Just putting that out there.
Crocs and tiny shorts. That's all you need. You don't even need pants and tiny shorts. Just Crocs and tiny shorts. All you need.
Right, I do need to clear some of these comments, so we're not going to be able to discuss each one. Daz says, I'll be at Rift on Sunday. Go see Andy. Stip says, in all the years of playing, I've never seen so much information in chat available before an event. So well done on Irene for that.
Thank you.
They do
Daz
that well.
said, if it wasn't for this podcast, I wouldn't be playing Airsoft, so I thank them for that. So thank you.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Jungle's Airsoft blog. I did my first Sterling event last weekend. I didn't have nods, but put the effort in and kept up with the rest of Task Force. And that's the thing. That's ultimately all you've got to do.
It's the right mindset. It's go to an event with the right mindset, and people will look after you. People will look after you. Yeah, definitely.
The Beard says, I'd love to get into MilSim, but struggling with events in my area.
You're going to have to travel, mate. Sorry, but that is it. You're going to have to travel.
Yeah, that is at the moment.
I mean, if you drop us a message offline, we'll see if we can help you find something close to you.
We're going to try and get about a bit more next year, hopefully. But yeah, there are so few events out there that, unfortunately, I mean, there are, other than MOD sites, which we covered earlier, being very difficult to get onto, there are no urban locations in the south anyway.
No, they've all been taken up with building development, haven't they?
Redeveloped, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there was a couple up north. There's now one. So, you know, it is what it is.
Yeah.
So we think
Jimmy
Sparta's
David-
gone. Sparta's been redeveloped. So, you know, you've only got Driffield, but they're left up there, you know. And then the guys at HQ have now redeveloped a shopping mall to turn into kind of CQB side. But you wouldn't use that for a 24-hour MilSim, unfortunately.
No, you couldn't. It's a
suitable
bit,
for
No.
that.
it's a bit speed
Yeah.
softy, that one.
Yeah.
Jimmy Davison says, I'm very new to MilSim, and to date I've attended 3 events, and I find myself very fortunate to have some amazing guys around me who are always happy to help and advise. So that's always helpful.
Good.
Because that's the best way to learn is having
Awesome,
some people around you to give you a hand. Sam says, ooh, raid runs on my birthday. Might have to try and book in for my first MilSim.
Go for
Happy
it,
birthday.
mate.
Do it. Yeah, go for it.
Richard said Andy doesn't qualify for the Machiavellian badge because he turned up late.
I was there for 25 minutes, and I did the hard bit.
No, you're really good.
Silly Gilly said, I definitely don't mind a slow build-up event. I really enjoyed the last one, but this raid event sounds more up. This raid event sounds more up my street.
Right, well, Mr. Silly Gilly, as long as you... I know this one is directed at you. We still won't be allowing filming. Because we think that it detracts from the event from other people, you know. I'm sure you can appreciate that. It's about people's enjoyment in the moment, not necessarily about capturing awesome footage, which I think, in my opinion, can put a negative spin on events.
Ed does go to some events and not film. I'm just putting that out.
Yeah. Unless you ask him to.
Yeah. Stephen Whitehead says, to sum up some people kind of just went hard and then crashed. Mission's fucked, but at least I slept all right. I mean, I guess that's obviously for raid. If people, you know, don't comply with it, then
I have to be honest. And I hope they're not watching this, but there was somebody that gave some feedback to say that they only did 20 minutes of airsoft all weekend at Irene, and I was like, how? Like, how? Turns out they spent most of it in the fob, like at the back, refusing to go out. So, you know, it's what you put into it.
Yeah.
James Gore on the subject of James Defiant being shot and then offering up a yellow card, said James would turn a blind eye to that yellow card.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
You never know. I might have my sight back by November.
There you go. Stephen Whitehead says, guaranteed someone will turn up with a hay bale now to sleep on.
yeah.
Costas says, good to see
I mean,
you all.
that would
Good,
be a
Andy.
solid roleplay piece.
Oh,
to be
hello,
fair.
Costas.
That would be a solid roleplay, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
James says, top chumps on PKM. And Stephen said, it's always nice when you realise it's bigger than you remembered. Pegasus roleplay was the best part of Red Tide. 90% of people didn't realise it was just... I was one of the cartels while we move a lot of product around.
Oh, yeah.
Pegasus and Andy
was
were the two
Bin men.
asbestos technicians.
We literally had someone come up to us and say, are you actually like clearing asbestos? You know, there's an airsoft game going on. And we were like, yeah.
There is only one building on that site that has asbestos, and we don't go in that one.
yeah.
But
It
then
was
people were like,
We-
it's not the asbestos, they're clearing
Yeah.
it. I was like, no. Stop it.
You can always tell asbestos because of the taste as well. Just putting that out there. Don't lick asbestos and don't sue us if you do. Marky Mark says, what the fuck is asphalt? It's fucking tarmac. Fun fact, tarmac's a brand similar to Hoover. Asphalt is the actual material. Damien
Civil
Devison
engineer
says,
talking.
That's a
Damien Devison, a training in Swindon, 22nd to the 30th of September. That's how shit it is. So,
I mean, Swindon,
Yeah.
I mean, it's not Grimsby, but
it's up there.
it's
Yeah.
I guess, yeah.
So Ryan said, you'd be surprised what takes precedent when it comes to sort of MOD grounds. I've been kicked off multiple ranges due to bookings from cadets and officer cadets. So
Yeah.
And then Rage says, "I am nice."
I call bullshit.
I think
actually,
that's
to be
I
fair-
think that's the quote of the day. He needs
to
a
be
patch.
fair, Rage is one of the nicest and kindest people that I
Yes.
know. He just won't
Accept
be
that.
happy about me saying that. Yeah,
No,
he won't. He's genuinely one of the nicest people in Airsoft.
he'll be throwing his phone across the table.
Well, either that or he'll be sobbing in the corner because I've said something nice about him for a change.
Yeah. We all love Rage.
Yeah,
Guys, if people want to book onto Raid, how can they do so?
straight on our website. Defiantevents.co.uk. I actually need to have a bit of a tidy up on the website because I've still got stuff from Irene on there. So yeah, I need to have a bit of a website tidy up. But yeah, you'll find it even before I've decided to, not do my real work and instead update our website.
You can also get in touch with Defiant on their Instagram at Defiant_events. So if you've got any questions or you want to find out, or for some reason you can't use the internet to find their website, you can find them through Instagram as well.
Yeah, we've got Linktree on there. You can message us on Facebook. You can do smoke signals if you want. Send us a pigeon. However you think you can get in contact with us, we will answer.
And failing that, if you can't get in touch with them, you can get in touch with us and we can always put your comments to them. You can do so on an email at nofochat@hotmail.com. Our Instagram is at November_Foxtrot_NoFo and the website is novemberfoxtrot.co.uk. Next week, we are going to be celebrating our 3rd birthday. We have a Q&A that we're doing there. There may be some prizes to give away in a competition. So if you're interested in that, then please feel free to join us. Yay! Wednesday at 8 p.m. That was Andy that did that. You can tell by the smile on his face. Don't laugh, Andy, because you'll hurt yourself.
It's all right. I'm already in pain. It was worth it.
More drugs, go.
So please feel free to join us to celebrate. We'll probably be wearing party hats and having a bit of a laugh. But yeah, we'll be officially 3 years old, which is very exciting. We've got a lot of interesting stuff in the pipeline coming up after that as well. That we're working on busily away in the background. So keep your ears to the ground with that one.
Which we might mention next week.
We can mention it this week if you want.
Or should we wait till Lance?
We can wait till Lance.
We'll wait till Lance is here. Tune in
So,
next week.
Tease.
I do have a quick question. When do Kevin and I get our gold NoFo patches?
Well, I'd like to say, and on the subject of patches, actually, I really like the Defiant black one. It's actually sitting here behind me and is stealthily
you mean the
whole episode.
murdered one? Yeah, the murdered outboard. Yeah.
How did you get that?
I bought it off them at one of their events. Actually, see, we don't get
there was none there.
Yeah, we're happy to support and pay our friends and help them out.
That's right, Andy. Hit me up next time you see me. I'll give you one for free.
Oh,
no
you
worries.
prick!
Yeah.
On that note, Kevin, would you like to have the words of wisdom for the episode?
Yes.
Our closing sentiment.
Yeah, so all I'll say is thank you once again to everyone on NoFo for supporting us, for giving us a chance to talk about our events. Look forward to seeing as many of our viewers at our events and shared events or the NoFo event as we had earlier on this year. Yeah, look forward to seeing you through the end of my battle sites. Have a good evening.
Nice one.
Lovely.
Cheers, Kev. Say goodbye, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Stay NoFo. Missed you.